This is TWiT.
Not sure I had a Halo in my house, but if I did, I'd be pretty bummed.
Yeah. So Amazon tried to get into the wearable game, I think, along with looking at the market and seeing that the wearables are a very popular category. Due to the long history of Fitbit and the sort of meteoric rise of the Apple Watch, it is hard to break into the wearable fitness health category with the introduction of a new device. And we've only seen a few companies able to come anywhere near that by tackling different ideas. So the Oura Ring is a good example of that, where instead of having a wrist watch or some sort of thing that straps onto your wrist, it's a ring that can track your movement and do a bunch of other things. And so it did kind of find a new little nook that it could interest and have people go, oh yeah, this is something that I want. But with Amazon and the introduction of the Halo band, the Halo View, and then later the Halo Rise, for the most part, what we saw was just instance after instance of products that already existed on the market in other places. And I honestly don't know, in trying to understand Amazon's idea here, if it was, well, for the people who like Amazon, then now they can have a wearable from Amazon. I really don't, it's hard for me to understand the sort of thinking behind it. Or maybe it was just, well, we can sell a really inexpensive or somewhat inexpensive device and at least have some of the market cornered.
Well, it seems like Amazon likes to throw spaghetti at the wall.
They do.
You know, as far as kind of their hardware. They have that moment, the time of year, I don't know if they still do this, where suddenly they just unload like an insane amount of these like new items, these new tech gadgets. And half of them you're like, really? Like someone's going to buy that or whatever, you know, and I'm sure some of them survive and some of them don't.
Absolutely. And I think that was also a time of abundance.
Yeah. True.
The last 2 years now, they have not done that. It used to be I have at home a smart, it's a sort of toaster oven that Amazon made at one point that they stopped selling shortly after they started making it. Still works great. It's awesome. But that was one of many products that they made where they were just trying to see what worked, because at the time, they were able to. So I think this was part of that release for sure, but they did continue down the Halo brand with the Halo View and the Halo Rise. The Halo Rise being a smart alarm. It sort of sat next to your bed and it was kind of a domed light. And so it would do the sort of wake up to the daylight kind of idea, while it was also being a smart alarm that tracked your sleep. But Google was already doing that with its Google, the Nest Hub. The Nest Hub without a camera that would use the solely radar system to track your sleep. And then you could also have the display sort of change color temperature and lighten up the room to provide that smart alarm. And then these are all products that have some kind of deeply rooted competitors. So I'm not surprised to hear that Amazon is going to, as we are wont to say in the tech world, shutter its Halo division. So The Verge learned this independently, and then they did. They saw some emails from the VP of Smart Home and Health at the company. And essentially, along with closing down the Halo program, they are also letting folks go who worked in the Halo team. And they talk about how the division has faced significant headwinds, which for folks who don't know means basically different obstacles they face that have resulted in them not making as much money as they expected on something. So it's as if a wind is blowing at you and keeping you from moving at your best pace forward. I think it's a boat term originally, which would make sense. And then also the fact that, yes, it's an increasingly crowded segment, and because of the uncertain economic environment. The company claims that there were customers who absolutely loved the Halo, but they just don't see it as a category that's worth looking into in the long term. What's kind of cool is that if you did get an Amazon Halo device, there is a refund that the company is offering. So I find this to be one of those rare instances where a company is going, even though we've got a subscription service and a purchase, which are two totally separate categories. When we wind this down, we will pay you back for having purchased the product in the first place. Usually it's just kind of like, well, we're getting rid of it. So yeah, we're done. You don't have to pay any more because you're not doing the subscription, but we're not going to pay you back for what you purchased.
That's nice. It's nice.
That is a really good thing that they're doing for sure. Another thing is that the Halo band, the original Halo band, it was noted for having two features. One was that it would use your smartphone to do a, I think this is really goofy because they called it a 3D image or a 3D scan of your body, but essentially it would just look at your frame and then try to estimate body fat based on just looking at your frame. I don't know how well it did that. And then the other thing that it did was it would listen to your tone of voice. So as you were communicating, it would listen to how you were speaking and then try to provide feedback on, well, you were grouchy 3 times today. And these were the times when you were grouchy. And it's actually, then look at sort of data points and say, you didn't get much sleep last night. You skipped breakfast.
You're doing everything wrong, kid.
So no wonder why you're being angry at people.
Quit yelling at me.
And I remember when it came out, everyone going, great, so this thing's going to be constantly listening to me while it's on my wrist? No, thanks. And then also it's going to be policing my tone of voice? No, thanks, ×2. So I really think it was a miss from the get-go. But here's what I find as kind of an interesting conversation about it is we've got all of these different aspects, all of these factors that are at play here. And it's hard to narrow it down and obviously know for sure what is the ultimate cause of why the company chose to do this. Because we could go all the way back to the beginning and go, well, in the first place, you made a product that nobody really wanted, except for the people who bought it, of course, the few people who bought it.
Yeah, right.
It could also be that the market is saturated and crowded. It could also be that the pandemic has resulted in you not having as much money as you had hoped by this point. So you would have kept it going longer and then maybe it would have had a place. I mean, there are any number of reasons why this is the case. And I should also mention, this is anyone who's purchased the product within the last 12 months will get that refund. I don't want to make it seem as if if you purchased it right when it launched and you've had that use of it for as long as you have that you're getting a refund. It's you purchased it in the last 12 months, then you will get that refund. And then all prepaid Halo subscription fees will be refunded and of course won't be charged anymore. They are going to, along with shuttering the service, they are going to basically make the devices stop working, brick the devices on August 1st. And any data that's sort of stored in Amazon's servers will be deleted at that point. You can go in.
Devices are just bricked. Yeah. I mean, because what can you actually do with them if they can't pull from the cloud? But that's just kind of like this ongoing reminder of this cautionary
you don't own
tale.
Our devices.
Yeah, exactly. Like you pay full price for a device. And if the cloud service stops, that device is useless. It doesn't matter how well designed it was, how beautiful it is. It's on your bookshelf as an item, a totem to remember.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
That's so frustrating to me.
It is very frustrating.
I remember getting this really cool, there was a company that ended up going under, and they were making license plate frames that had a solar panel across the top and a battery inside and then a camera. And this was before the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration put in place a rule that said vehicles after X year, and I don't remember which year it is, have to have backup cameras. So this was still in the time of no backup cameras by like as a required standard. And so I had a vehicle that was long before that time, and I was super pumped. I had a backup camera. And so you had the camera and everything in the frame. And then in your car, you use the OBD2 port to plug in this little dongle, and it would then create like a little Wi-Fi network in your car that you'd connect to through the app, and then you'd be able to access the backup camera and use it. And it had some smarts that were built into it for, object recognition and all that kind of thing. And it was beautifully designed. It was made by folks who had worked at Apple. The engineers left and started their own company doing this. The company ended up folding. And unfortunately, it had a randomly generated password whenever you set it up for the Wi-Fi. And I did not write down that password anywhere. And so to this day, I could still be using it if I had that password, but the only way is to use the app. The app eventually got removed from the App Store.
Oh my God.
And so now it's just this beautiful, like a really strong aluminum, and the idea of having it, powered by solar. It was just it's just sad. Yeah. It's just sad. I don't know. I don't need to hold on to it anymore. There's no reason for me to have it still, but I do still have it because I'm like, one day I'm just going to figure out how to hack this thing.
Right.
So all of that's to say, I wouldn't be surprised if we see iFixit or a similar company figure out how to do something with the Halo bands, because when Amazon ended up, they used to make these, and I thought they were great, these little sort of lozenge shaped buttons, and I think they were called dash buttons, yes. And they were these physical little buttons, and you'd order them for a specific product, and then as you're running low, you push the button and it automatically orders that product and has it sent to you. I thought that was clever, but there was some issue regulation wise for them not to be able to do this. I don't really remember what it was. So they ended up closing this down and bricking those devices. But there were a few people who figured out how to hack them and turn them into just like smart buttons. And so you could just press it and have it do whatever you wanted it to do. Loved that. iFixit did the same with the Pebble smartwatch. That company all but folded, and they kept that up through third-party means. We had someone on the show to talk about that. Right. So I think if you have the opportunity to hold on to the Halo band, if it's older than 12 months, you might hold on to it and see if some folks out there, some clever folks out there can figure out something else to do with it. Even turning it into just a regular old fitness tracker that counts your steps. Now somebody's got a pedometer if they want it. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that.
It's hard to bring yourself to just throw something like that away, like, oh, well, it's not supported anymore in the recycling or in the trash or whatever. It's
especially
it's always that hope. Like
it's so good.
It's perfect.
Yeah. This was such a good idea. Yeah. This was something I could really get behind.
Right. Frustrating.
Alas.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands On Photography here on TWiT TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.